democratically elected leaders of Israel and the terrorist chieftains. That's like saying after 9/11, well, I'm issuing arrest warrants for George Bush, but also for bin Laden. Or after in World War II, well, I'm issuing arrest warrants for FDR, but also for Hitler. It's a hit job. It's not serious. He's out to defame Israel. And he's also pouring gasoline on the fires of anti-Semitism that are spreading around the world, because he is attacking the one and only Jewish state and trying to handcuff us, preventing us from exercising responsibly through the laws of war as we obey them and we are subordinate to them. He's saying we're not. He's creating false symmetry, false facts, and he's doing a grave injustice to the international court. He's creating a false symmetry between the democratically elected leaders of Israel and the terrorist chieftains. That's like saying after 9/11, well, I'm issuing arrest warrants for George Bush, but also for bin Laden. Or after in World War II, well, I'm issuing arrest warrants for FDR, but also for Hitler.
Welcome to the Jaybefaunt channel. I am your host, James Fauntleroy. So good to see all of you here today on this beautiful Tuesday. Today is May 21st, 2021. Let's get him out of here. The Jaybefaunt channel is available on all major podcast platforms, so go ahead and subscribe there. Also part of Revolutionary Blackout Network, so you can see me there on Sundays and Thursdays. If you have not already, you guys can also go straight to my Patreon. And if you guys would like to, you guys can subscribe to that. You guys can also subscribe to my Substack at jaybefaunt.substack.com. This gives you email notifications whenever I go live or upload clips. If you guys have not already, please make sure to like the stream. It's good to see all of you here with me, excuse me, today. And just wanted to start off with some words of denial from a war criminal, some outrage from a war criminal to talk about what we're going to be talking about today. But yeah, it's kind of funny how he said, you've got to charge me, you got to charge George W. Bush. I bet. I'm down. Look, yo, you ready to charge George W. Bush? I am there, right? But to him, it's crazy. Why would you charge George W. Bush? Why wouldn't we? Take him to the Hague, okay? All right? Put him in an orange jumpsuit. Look, Netanyahu, you belong in an orange jumpsuit. It'll look good on you, right? But not just you, but also people like David Cameron, people like Boris Johnson. I would say people like Bill Clinton deserve a jumpsuit. George W. Bush deserves to be put into a jumpsuit. Barack Obama deserves to be put in a jumpsuit. Donald Trump deserves to be put in a jumpsuit, especially for the killing and murder of Qasem Soleimani. Of course, right? And yes, of course, Joe Biden as well. So, look, they all need to be put into chains. They all need to be put into jumpsuits. I have no problem with that. I just want to say that right there. And anybody who may be watching going, oh, well, you side with Trump. No, I don't. He's just as much of a criminal as Joe Biden. Watch me dropping subs after that one. But it's true. And people will say, well, he may have not caused wars, but he damn sure kept the ones that he inherited going. Come on now. I got to stay consistent. Anywho, while we're at it, we're going to say hello to people in the chat while we're here. Yes, this is a live stream. I like to say hello to all of you watching today on Tuesday. We got here Jacqueline coming in saying, hi, Jaybefaunt. Hey, everyone. Good to see you, Jacqueline. We have Jesco says, was just wondering. Hi, everyone. Good to see you. Roger Meadows. No, Cynthia. No, Cynthia. She had to cancel. Sorry. So it's going to be a different story today. Sorry, Raj. Luz coming in saying, in the herald of our time is democratically elected. He is still a Herod. Yep. Definitely. Luz, yeah, I would love to see George W. Bush charged. Because, I mean, that man literally has like 1 million deaths on his hand. Like him, his, I forgot the name of his Secretary of Defense and the Secretary of States, but what is it? Condoleezza Rice? Yeah. Well, he's dead, so you can't charge him. Colin Powell. But yeah, I would charge him. I would have his name and title stripped. And he's disgraced. Colin Powell is definitely disgraced at this point. Of course, you would have people like Barack Obama, put him behind bars for the war crimes that he did. He turned 2 wars into 7, right? And Netanyahu said George W. Bush and Osama bin Laden. Here's the thing. George W. Bush, what Osama bin Laden did was horrible. Make no mistake. But who pushed him there? I'm not making any excuses for what he did. But I'm saying you shouldn't have pushed him to that position. And y'all trained him. The hell? That was chickens coming home to roost. You shouldn't have did it in the first place. Anyway, let's continue. Randall Online says, I have a special kind of disdain for W. Bush. That's logical. Yes, Roger Meadows, Donald Rumsfeld, and John Bolton. God, Donald Rumsfeld was a bastard. Jesus. Zoe says, the fact that all these genocidal war pigs are free living in mansions on yachts is why this world is insane. I agree. They should not be, and yet they are. Let me check the Rockfin just to say my hellos to everybody on the Rock. We got people watching on the Rockfin. Good to see you. And then people who are watching on the Rumble side. It is good to have you up in here as well. All right. So let's get into what we are talking about today. I do not want to waste anybody's time. Let's go. All right. So we have war crimes. Who are those people in the back? And why do they have this grimace? Well, let's get into it right now. So the International Criminal Court decided to try to pursue warrants for the arrests of Hamas leaders as well as this leaders for the state of Israel. This came as a surprise to many, including to people like Benjamin Netanyahu, which he's like, oh my God, this is anti-Semitism. Still sticking with that, aren't you, BB? It's kind of funny. When I think about what BB just said, let's say the president of Mozambique did a genocide against another people. And then the president of Mozambique said, if you are trying to pursue a warrant for my arrest through the ICC, that's racist. Wouldn't that be the equivalent? Sounds like it to me. Because you're equating that with anti-Semitism when in reality, You murdered 40,000 people, BB. I mean, we got to make it make sense, right? So let's get into the details, because I think this is very important. Let's, just for good measure, take a look at what was said for this ICC pursuit. And then we'll get into some of the outrage by some people. And I also want to break down like some of what the ICC said. And ICC, I don't know, some things don't pan out to me in some ways. And we'll get into that too, because the ICC makes some claims and I'm like, really? All right, so this is from BNO News. They posted this. Thank you very much. All 16 minutes. Let's go.
Today, I'm filing applications for warrants of arrest before Pre-Trial Chamber 1 of the International Criminal Court in the situation in the state of Palestine. These applications are the outcome of independent investigations conducted by my office under the direction of the two principal trial lawyers standing behind me today, Brenda J. Hollis, who, in addition to leading our work in the situation in Ukraine for the past couple of years, has since January also taken over leadership of the Palestine investigation, and Andrew Cayley, King's Counsel, who more recently joined the office and will be leading our work on the situation in the state of Palestine going forward. On the basis of evidence collected and examined and analyzed by my office, I have reasonable grounds to believe that three senior leaders of Hamas, Yahya Sinwar, Mohammed Daif, and Ismail Haniyeh, bear criminal responsibility for the following international crimes committed on the territory of Israel and the state of Palestine from at least the 7th of October, 2023. Extermination as a crime against humanity. Murder as a crime against humanity and as a war crime. The taking of hostages as a war crime. Rape and other acts of sexual violence during captivity as crimes against humanity and as war crimes. Torture during captivity as a crime against humanity.
So here's my question. So he charges him with sexual assault, through the Palestinian resistance, also known as Hamas. My question, though, is how are you charging him with sexual assault when there has not been any substantial evidence that has been found, especially via investigative journalism? Because that's something I'm kind of curious about, right? Because there are many different articles that have came out that have talked about, whether it's through Haaretz. Let me share just really quick, because there's a bunch of them that have said, there's no credible evidence to sexual assault that has been committed by Hamas and largely the Palestinian resistance. So I just want to clarify. Hang on. Because it looks kind of weird to me. Hang on. Hang on. Let me stop sharing this really quick. All right, so look at here. These are a bunch of different headlines. All right. IDF colonial rabbi implies. So this is from the IDF saying, this is from a article from the IDF saying a rabbi says that sexual assault is permitted in war. This one looks like it's from The Guardian. Says Israeli soldiers accused of R-wording an 11-year-old. So that was from years ago. 17 soldiers investigated an R-word case. So I have to be very careful with how I say things because we're on the tube, but you guys can clearly see it there. The deceased soldier boasted about assaulting Palestinian women. Down here, it says IDF soldiers assault prison, only the tip of the iceberg. Israeli suspects to plead charges of assaulting a British woman after defense lawyers get material. So basically, it's like there's a lot of IDF sexual assault that's happening that it doesn't get brought up in this case, right? Now, while that being said, I want to also share this as well. So I have the article here because I wanted to make sure I got that too. And I wanted to one for one to make sure that this wasn't an altered piece. So this is out of Haaretz. It says, however, at Shura base, to which most of the bodies were taken for purposes of identification, there were 5 forensic pathologists at work in that capacity. They also examined bodies that arrived completely or partially naked in order to examine the possibility of sexual assault. According to a source knowledgeable about the details, there were no signs on or any of the bodies attesting to sexual relations having taken place or of mutilation of genitalia. Now, it continues down here. It says these teams did not document a single case of sexual assault or in cases of genital mutilation. Beyond this, the inquiries put to 3 bodies in the defense establishment by Haaretz. It emerges that the intelligence material collected by the police and the intelligence bodies, including footage from terrorist body cameras, does not contain visual documentation of any acts of sexual violence themselves. So, and publication after publication have actually talked about this, right? Let's go into another publication really quick, because this is the claim that they're laying out against Hamas leaders. So this is out of the gray zone. It says, screams without proof, questions for New York Times about shoddy Hamas mass sexual assault report. So let's look at this. This is from Max Blumenthal and Aaron Mate. This was back in January. It says, after dismantling New York Times front page feature alleging a broader pattern of gender-based violence on October 7th by Hamas, the gray zone is demanding answers to the paper for its journalistic malpractice. So it says Gray Zone has identified serious issues with the credibility of key sources quoted in the New York Times December 28 stories, Screaming Without Words, How Hamas Weaponized Sexual Violence on October 7th, authored by Jeffrey Gettleman, Anat Swartz, and Adam Sella. An article purports to prove a broader pattern of gender-based violence on October 7th that even Israeli authorities have been willing to allege. However, the Times report is marred with sensational, wild leaps of logic and an absence of concrete evidence to support its sweeping conclusion. The Times has come under fire from family members of Gal Abdush, the so-called girl in the black dress who features as Exhibit A in Gettleman and Company's attempt to demonstrate a pattern of sexual assault by Hamas on October 7th. Not only have Abdush's sister and brother-in-law each denied that she was sexually assaulted, the former has accused the Times of manipulating her family into participating in by misleading them about their editorial angle. Though the family's comments have sparked a major uproar on social media, the Times have yet to address the serious breach of journalistic integrity that its staff has accused of committing. So this is from Suleiman Ahmed. says breaking, Gal Abdullah's sister denies sexual assault claims in New York Times article and says the New York Times manipulated the family. They had no knowledge that the article was going to be about sexual assault and were under the impression it was going to be about Gal Abdullah's memory. So this comes, in many ways that there's really has been no credible source that this actually happened. Now, I'm not saying that it didn't. What I'm saying is that we haven't seen any credible source of it actually happening since October 7th. Now, if it has, then it should come up. But I have not heard anything at all as of yet. So I want to get back to the video. And let's continue.
And as a war crime. Other inhumane acts during captivity as a crime against humanity. Cruel treatment during captivity as a war crime.
Now, as far as I is concerned, as from what I've seen, I've actually seen some of the video from Hamas and how people were treated. That's not what they said. I've seen elderly people say that they were treated with dignity. That's from what I've seen. So at the same time, that could be indicative of just, who they have had experiences with, not the entire group, but that's from what I've seen. That's from what I've heard. And that's from what I've read. So let's continue.
And outrages upon personal dignity during captivity as a war crime. These crimes were committed in the context of the ongoing armed conflict detailed in the applications and as part of a widespread and systematic attack against the civilian population of Israel by Hamas and other armed groups.
Let me ask you this. If it's a civilian population, everyone that is under the age of 40 and I think above the age of 18 has to go into the IDF, both male and female. Meaning, most of the people who are over 40 are veterans, and most of the people who are under 40 are IDF soldiers. So if they are soldiers, then is it really an attack on civilians because they have mandatory conscription of military service?
My office submits that there are reasonable grounds to believe that these three Hamas leaders are criminally responsible for the killing of Israeli civilians in attacks perpetrated by Hamas and other armed groups on the 7th of October, 2023.
Let me ask you this once again. Does an occupied people have the right to resist their occupiers? Do they? I mean, because they've been on that land for hundreds of years without any issue whatsoever. It didn't really start until 1948, May 15th to be exact. So if they are illegal occupation, then wouldn't they have the right to resist that occupation? I mean, last time I checked, wasn't that part of the Geneva Conventions? Okay.
the taking of hostages, and the other crimes alleged in our applications. My office has diligently collected evidence and interviewed survivors and eyewitnesses at the scene of at least 6 major attack locations. The applications rely upon evidence such as CCTV footage, authenticated audio, photographs, and video material, expert evidence, and statements by Hamas and the members of other armed groups, including by the alleged perpetrators themselves. Sinwar, Deif, and Haniya not only planned and instigated the crimes committed on the 7th of October 2023 in our submission, they also acknowledged their responsibility through their own words and by their actions. They are charged both as co-perpetrators and as superiors. My office also submits today that there are reasonable grounds to believe that hostages taken from Israel, taken from their homes, taken from their communities, have been kept in inhumane conditions, and that some have been subjected to horrendous sexual violence.
Again, the whole sexual violence claim has not been substantiated, at least by investigative journalism. And another question is why is it that you need to believe claims from other people when the Palestinian resistance actually asked you to investigate them themselves? They asked you to come and investigate them. They said, come and investigate us. Check us out. If somebody's doing something wrong, why would you ask to be checked out? ICC, I don't know about y'all. Sometimes I wonder.
Including rape while being held in captivity.
Okay.
We have reached that conclusion based upon medical records.
What medical records? Have they been published in the media?
Contemporaneous video and documentary evidence and interviews with survivors. We are continuing our investigations into crimes committed on the 7th of October, including investigating further reports of sexual violence. And I repeat and underline my call for the immediate release of all hostages taken from Israel and for their immediate safe return to their families. This is a fundamental imperative demanded by good conscience, demanded by morality, and demanded by international humanitarian law.
But wasn't it Hamas that actually agreed to a ceasefire deal, but then Israel recently said that they didn't agree to a ceasefire deal? And isn't the reason for the ceasefire is for the exchange of hostages so that the Palestinian hostages, which are greater in number than the Israeli hostages, can be returned to their families in Gaza? Because there are literally hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of Palestinian hostages being held by Israel. So it would probably be best to stop, the bombing and the shelling of Gaza so that they can actually do the exchange. I mean, isn't that the purpose of the ceasefire? And also to preserve the lives of the Palestinians so that they don't die?
Hostages must be released immediately.
Yes, on both sides. You know what I'm saying? It's like, hold on. Every single time they talk about the hostages, they always talk about the Israeli hostages, but they never want to talk about the Palestinian hostages. Like, come on. And how many children under the age of 18 are being held by Israel? Children. By the way, some people, Zionists will come in and say, well, 20% of Israel's population is Arab. So they actually are cool with Arabs. They just don't like, the terrorists. My question is like, yes, it is true. 20% of Israel's population is Arab, yet they make up almost 50% of the people in prison in Israel. Who does that remind you of? Thought so. Interesting.
I can also confirm today that I have reasonable grounds to believe, on the basis of evidence collected and examined by my office, that Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Minister of Defense Yoav Gallant bear criminal responsibility for the following international crimes committed on the territory of the State of Palestine from at least the 8th of October 2023. The crimes include starvation of civilians as a method.
Hold up. Wait a minute. I'm sorry. From at least the 8th of October? Oh, no, baby. You got to go way back before that. You got to go back in time. Way back. You got to go years. You're just starting with October 7th? What about October 6th, 5th, 4th, 3rd? Like, come on. What happened in 2018, baby? What happened in 2014? Oh my gosh. You guys are starting from then. That's like somebody getting beat up for years and years, and then that person who gets beat up, you only count from when they started to fight back. Like the person who's been doing all the beating, like you have to go back further than when they were fighting against the person who's fighting back. Can we talk? Like, can we literally talk about the March to Return? When the Palestinians were peacefully going up to the gate, to the fence, to plead with the IDF to let them return to their homes, and the IDF started, smoking them, hitting them in their legs, and, murdering Palestinians who were peacefully protesting for them to return to their homes? Can we talk about that? Can you go a little bit back further? Jesus.
Method of warfare, willfully causing great suffering, serious injury to body or health or cruel treatment, willful killing or murder, and intentionally directing attacks against a civilian population.
Don't forget the murder of over 100 journalists, including Shireen Abdul Akla. I mean, this is before October 7th. Journalists being murdered left and right, over 100 of them.
As well as crimes against humanity of extermination and or murder, persecution, and allegations of crimes of committing other inhumane acts. It's alleged that these crimes were committed in the context of the ongoing armed conflict and as part of a widespread and systematic attack against the civilian population of Gaza, pursuant to a state policy. Unfortunately, these crimes continue to this day. My office submits that these individuals, through a common plan, have systematically deprived the civilian population of Gaza of objects indispensable to human survival. We have reached that conclusion based upon interviews with survivors, many eyewitnesses, experts, from satellite imagery, statements from Israeli officials, including the 2 individuals subject to the present application, as well as based upon several hundred authenticated videos, photographs, and audio recordings, many of which were taken and shared by victims and eyewitnesses themselves.
Yeah, because we saw it all live and in 4K on Twitter and Instagram. Like the evidence is there. It's been there. So yeah, there's a ton of people who have been sharing. How many times have we seen little dismembered bodies from the shelling of buildings and residences and hospitals and mosques and churches in Gaza? So of course, the evidence there is widely shared. The last most gruesome image I saw, I can't even describe to you on this program. I will say this much. It was horrific, and it's something I would never want anyone to see. If my mother or my nieces or my sister-in-law ever saw those images, they would burst into tears. And I've seen way too many of those over the last 7 months.
This systematic deprivation resulted from a decision to impose a total siege on Gaza by completely closing the 3 border crossing points, Rafah, Kerem Shalom, and Erez, for extended periods of time, and by arbitrarily restricting the transportation of essential supplies, including food and medicine, through the border crossings after they were reopened.
Causing starvation, mass starvation, so that if the bombs don't kill the Palestinian people, then the starvation will. The spread of disease will.
The siege, the total siege, also involved cutting off cross-border water pipelines from Israel to Gaza, which is the principal source of clean water for the population in Gaza. It was cut off for prolonged periods beginning on the 9th of October 2023, and it was accompanied by the cutting off or hindering of electricity supplies to Gaza from the 8th of October 2023 until today. That conduct took place alongside attacks that killed civilians, including people queuing for food, the obstruction of aid delivery by humanitarian organizations, and attacks on aid workers that forced many of those same humanitarian organizations to either cease operations or limit their life-saving efforts in Gaza.
The IOF is the same people that will use a drone that has the sound of a crying child to lure people out so that they can take them out. The IOF is the same group that will start picking off civilians who are trying to get food from a humanitarian aid truck. So they're trying to get food, and they will claim that, oh, well, they were probably tied to Hamas. When in reality, most of those people have no ties. And they're being murdered left and right simply for being hungry. Telling you, this is crazy, man.
The tragic effect of the use of starvation as a method of warfare against Gaza's civilian population is acute, it's visible, and it's widely known, and it's confirmed by multiple witnesses and victims, including local and foreign medical doctors. That starvation has caused and continues to cause deaths, malnutrition, dehydration, and profound suffering among the population. Famine is already present in some areas of Gaza, and it is imminent in others. My office charges Netanyahu and Gallant as co-perpetrators and as superiors in the commission of these alleged crimes. Israel, like all states, has the right to defend its population. It has every right to ensure the return of hostages that have been criminally and callously taken.
But you notice he never said that Palestine or Palestinians have the right to defend themselves. I did not hear him say that the Palestinians have the right to resist. What about them? Isn't that occupation illegal? Okay.
Those rights, however, do not absolve Israel of its obligations to comply with international humanitarian law. Intentionally causing death, starvation, injury, and suffering to the civilian population, including so very many women and children, are criminal means to achieve military and political goals. That's what we allege. As I have repeatedly underlined, since last year in Egypt, in Israel, and in Palestine, and again this year, those who do not comply with the law should not complain later when my office takes action based upon solid evidence. That day has come. Today, we underline in the clearest possible fashion that international law and the laws of armed conflict apply to everyone. No foot soldier, no commander, no civilian leader, no one can act with impunity. Nothing on earth can justify willfully depriving human beings, including women and children, babies, the old and the young, of the basic necessities required for life. Nothing on earth can justify hostage taking or the targeting and killing of civilians. The independent judges of this International Criminal Court are the sole arbiters as to whether the necessary standard for the issuance of warrants of arrest have been met.
Now, you guys can probably watch the rest of it later, and I'll put the link to it. You know, there's only like 5 more minutes left of what he says. But one of the things I was wondering is, yes, the ICC did issue an arrest or trying to issue arrest warrants, but do they have power to enforce international law? Let's take a look. So this is the ICC. It's like, how does it work? Let me enlarge this so that people know. So cooperation says, as a judicial institution, the ICC, the International Criminal Court, does not have its own police force or enforcement body. Thus, it relies on cooperation with countries worldwide for support, particularly for making arrests, transferring arrested persons to the ICC detention center in The Hague, freezing suspects' assets, and enforcing sentences. While not a United Nations organization, the court has a cooperation agreement with the United Nations. When a situation is not within the court's jurisdiction, the United Nations Security Council can refer the situation to the ICC, granting it jurisdiction. This has been done in the situations in Darfur, in Sudan, and in Libya. The ICC actively works to build understanding and cooperation in all regions, for example, through seminars and conferences worldwide. The court cooperates with both state parties and non-state parties. Okay, so with that being said, they really can't do too much, right? Now, if they need someone to bring them in, well, who's going to bring in Netanyahu in? Because you can get the Iranian army to try to come in and get Netanyahu, but that will be a military action that would cause a further escalation between Iran and Israel, which of course Israel has no problem with doing because they already started. And then if they wanted to go after Hamas leaders, well, the IDF would need to go in and try to extract them. But the IDF really is too chicken shit to be able to do that, because they rather just bomb people to oblivion instead of going down on foot and like real soldiers and actually try to extract the enemy. And yes, I just insulted the IDF because, well, all they do is kill civilians. They don't actually go toe-to-toe with the actual Palestinian resistance because they get their asses handed to them. And for that type of commentary, then, you know, of course, you know, you have to listen to some people who are a lot more educated on that than I am. You know, oh my goodness, I'm blanking on his name, but he's on Danny Haifong's channel quite often. But yeah, so I mean, they are constantly getting the, you know, they're constantly getting their shit split in so many ways. But I honestly think that it is important that, you know, this happens. Scott Ritter, yes, thank you for whatever, man. I don't know why I was blanking on his name, but yeah, Scott Ritter. But I think it's important that, yes, this does happen. But at the same time, it's like, does the ICC really have power like that? And on top of it, the ICC is going after the Palestinian resistance too, which I'm like, did you guys get access to more information than what investigative journalists have? Like, what have you guys found out more than what they have already? I mean, I'm just, you know, asking questions. Now let's go to this, because there is somebody who was also involved into this that is kind of people didn't really suspect. You guys know the actor George Clooney? His wife's name is Amal Clooney. She's of Lebanese and Palestinian descent. And she was also instrumental in the International Criminal Court's decision in going after Hamas leadership as well as Israeli leadership. So let's take a look at that, because that's interesting. All right, so it says Amal Clooney, critics humbled as role in Israel-Hamas ICC arrest warrant bid revealed. The blurb says, for months, social media users have accused the British barrister of Lebanese and Palestinian descent of remaining silent about Israel's war on Gaza. So this is Amal Clooney, George Clooney's wife. And so it says hundreds of social media users have taken to the internet to apologize to prominent human rights lawyer Amal Clooney for learning that she is advising the International Criminal Court prosecutors seeking arrest warrants for Israeli and Hamas leaders. For months, Clooney, a British barrister of Lebanese and Palestinian descent, drew widespread criticism from commentators on social media who accuse her of silence over Israel's ongoing war on Gaza. That changed on Monday after ICC prosecutor Karim Khan said he had filed an application for arrest warrants for Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Defense Minister Yoav Gallant, as well as Hamas leaders Yahya Sinwar, Ismail Haniyeh, and Mohammed Diaf. It soon emerged that Amal Clooney had played a role in the case. Clooney co-authored a column with 5 other international lawyers in the Financial Times, which revealed that Khan asked us to advise whether there was sufficient evidence to lay charges of war crime and crimes against humanity. So she was instrumental in that, because the authors expressed their support for the prosecutor's decisions to seek the arrest warrants. In a statement published by the Clooney Foundation for Justice website the same day, Amal Clooney said she served on the panel because I believe in the rule of law and the need to protect civilian lives. As a human rights lawyer, I will never accept that one child's life has less value than another's. The CFJ was co-founded by Amal and her husband, actor George Clooney, in 2016. So it's people saying that they're sorry, basically, for doubting her. And there she is with her husband, George. And so, of course, a lot of people are saying, well, they should have doubted her. But the fact that she was silent for this long, they were skeptical. Ian Seagal says, in a shocking display of audacity, Amal Clooney, who parades herself as a human rights lawyer, revealed a glaring and unforgivable bias on critical issues. So you have people who are Zionists who are now mad at Amal Clooney, basically saying, the fact that she also has Benjamin Netanyahu and Yoav Gallant being pursued by the ICC, she's now upset. They're now upset at her. But this also makes me look at her a little bit sideways too. Well, really, she's not her husband, so I should really be looking at her husband sideways. But it says, meanwhile, George Clooney is set to appear as a headliner alongside former U.S. President Barack Obama and actor Julia Roberts at a campaign fundraising event for U.S. President Joe Biden in mid-June. So while Amal is actually going after one of the people who is responsible for the death of thousands of Palestinians, the guy who's basically bankrolling the murderer is being supported by her husband? Y'all, this is Mrs. Clooney. Mrs. Clooney, I need you to come here front and center real quick. Because your husband is making some stupid moves. Ma'am, you need to bring him in. Because he's literally fundraising for Genocide Joe. Like, what? Are you kidding me right now? Mrs. Clooney. Mrs. Clooney. This feels like a conflict of interest. Am I wrong? It feels almost like there's like a compromise there, right? I don't know, man. Let's continue. It says on Monday, Biden condemned the request by the ICC's prosecutor for an arrest warrant for Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu as outrageous, claiming there's no equivalence between Israel and Hamas. And yet, George is going to raise money for him? So wait, Amal Clooney's like, okay, we need to go after Hamas leadership as well as Israeli leadership for war crimes, right? Then her husband, who is raising money for Joe Biden says, oh no, that she shouldn't be going, they shouldn't be going after Netanyahu for crimes against humanity. That's BS. Clearly there's some things not in sync there, because Joe Biden is literally one of the people who's helping fund this genocide. If anything, Joe Biden should also be on that list of people with a warrant out for his arrest by the ICC. What does this say? Like, I don't understand. Like, why in the world are you still, why is George still trying to fundraise with Joe Biden? Like, it don't make no sense. Right? Because it really makes you look kind of cattywampus right there. All right. It says Karim Khan said on Monday that his office continues to investigate suspected crimes in Israel, Gaza, and West Bank, and that more arrest warrants could be issued in the future, if and when we consider the threshold of a realistic prospect of conviction has been met. So, yes. So that's what's going on. So that was an unlikely figure that is actually helping pursue Hamas and Israeli leadership under the ICC. And there's some praise, and yet there's some outrage. My thing is like, if I were Amal Clooney, I would be trying to encourage her husband, George, to say, no, we should not be fundraising for Joe Biden. We should just stay neutral and stay out of this. Because he's literally funding the genocide. And yes, this continues. George Clooney, you talk about human rights, and yet you're fundraising for Joe Biden? Okay. All right. I see you. Now, I want to go also to another point. So this is from Benny Gantz. So Suleiman Ahmed shared this earlier. Says, breaking Benny Gantz statement on ICC arrest warrant. Says the state of Israel embarked on the most justified war following a massacre carried out by a terrorist organization against its citizens. The state of Israel is fighting in the most moral manner in history. I'm sorry. I don't mean to laugh. But that is the biggest crock of BS I have ever heard. Hold on. Let me highlight this for y'all. Hang on. Israel is fighting in the most moral manner in history? $40,000 dead Palestinians have entered the chat. Stop playing with us, man. Stop playing with us. It says adhering to international law. Well, if you were adhering to international law, then the ICC would not be coming after you. and it has an independent and strong judicial system. You mean that same judicial system where you had Israelis literally protesting against Netanyahu for trying to change the judicial system so that it's more in his favor outside the confines of what's really moral and fair? Man, these guys just be, why you always lying? Oh my God, stop lying. Okay. Says placing the leaders of a state that went to battle to defend its citizens on the same level as bloodthirsty terrorists is a moral blindness and undermines its duty and ability to protect its citizens. Accepting the prosecutor's position would be an indelible historical crime. And this is you couldn't get a clearer picture, Suleiman? Come on, bro. I'm not going to fault you for it, though. So that was from Benny Gantz. So let's continue. This goes on to the whole, I forgot to play this as well, but this goes on to, I have the full video here. Yeah, let me do the full video. Because the whole issue of, talking about sexual assault, I think is very important that we also share what, if they're going to go after that for the Palestinian resistance, even though there has not been any credible evidence, we should also go after Israel for doing the same thing. Let's hear this.
How does what happened on October 7th in Israel was barbaric.
Mhm.
It was savage.
Yes.
We've heard the stories of rape and gang rape, of children being shot to death in front of their parents. We know what's happened with more than 250 people who've been taken hostage, including babies. How does a nation get, I don't even know what the right word is, beyond it? I don't know what the right word is. How does it get to feel that it's being supported and that it then doesn't, have to do what's going on in Gaza right now? The Elders, which is a group of former presidents, prime ministers, and UN officials, have also questioned now. They've just put out a statement questioning arms transfers and talking about the inhumanity that's happening in Gaza that's rising to an intolerable level.
Now, the person that she's talking to, he literally just left the State Department because of what the U.S. was allowing in regards to the state of Israel. So this is Josh Paul. He resigned from the State Department, and he's going to explain what he saw in regards to what Israel did. Take a listen.
I think what happened on October 7th was an absolute atrocity, was 1,000 atrocities. I think at the same time we condemn those atrocities, we have to condemn the atrocities that happen every day to Palestinians in the West Bank. You mentioned...
Oh, here we go. Here we go. All right. Let's talk about it.
Sexual violence. I was part of the human rights vetting process for arms going to Israel, and a charity called Defense of Children International Palestine drew our attention at the State Department to the sexual assault, actually the rape of a 13-year-old boy that occurred in an Israeli prison in the Mosque Bia in Jerusalem. We examined these allegations. We believed they were credible. We put them to the government of Israel. And you know what happened the next day? The IDF went into the DCIP offices and removed all their computers and declared them a terrorist entity. I think it is vital that atrocities not happen to anyone, not sexual atrocities, not sexual violations, not any kind of gross violation of human rights. We are looking at a situation where there is so much dehumanification, where people are not seen for the value that they have, And I think that's true whether you're talking about those who are attacked on their kibbutz or those who are attacked in their homes in Gaza or in the West Bank. What we really need is to center the human beings who are at the core and who are suffering so much in this conflict.
So the ICC is going to go after Israel for that? Let's go back to some other reactions to this happening via the ICC. I want to share, let me see. Hang on. Okay. So the ADL, Anti-Defamation League, really, they're just a front to accuse anyone and to go after anyone who speaks against Zionism for the most part. The ADL released a statement. They said the ICC's prosecutor's announcement was shameful, brazenly political assault against the Jewish state. We urge the ICC judges to reject the prosecutor's morally corrupt anti-Israel recommendation. Israel's actions against Hamas are a just war of self-defense, and Israel has proven willing and able to investigate and prosecute even the slightest deviations from its stringent rules of ethics, which often go further than the international obligations. If that was the case, then why did they feel the need to go after you? Also, let me ask you this. If it's a war of self-defense, then why are, if it's a war of self-defense, and if you're defending your land, then why did you have to come in on May 15th, 1948 to take that land that you haven't been on allegedly for hundreds, if not almost 1,000 years? And then on top of that, the thing is like, I'm not saying that you shouldn't be able to be on that land. What I'm saying is that why do you feel the need to take land from people who have been there for hundreds and hundreds of years instead of just, you know, building a house and moving next to them and living beside them? Why feel the need to take the land from them instead of just buying your own land in the area and then just living your lives among them? Why is it that you have to be separated completely from them just because they may be either Christian, Muslim, or Jewish Palestinian? Why do you feel the need to do that? So that's just a question I have. Like, here, hang on. Let me say this. Full disclosure, I'm a third Nigerian, right? If I wanted to return to my roots, I could go to Nigeria. But what if I kick a Nigerian off their land and out of their house and say, well, I was on this land, my ancestors were on this land, I have a right to return. Now, if that Nigerian that was kicked off their land by me, if they tried to resist me, even by violent means, would they have that right? See, this is why they don't want black people to get into this. Because if we get into this, we will talk about what we went through, and then we can make those comparisons. Right? Because I can say, well, then that gives me the right to kick out Nigerians off their land, or anybody that's off their land that to me is not a Nigerian, yet I'm just as much part of Nigerian as they are. In fact, the Nigerians there are more Nigerian than I am because I literally have some European in me. Trust me, I know. Chattel slavery will do that. So my question is, why in the world would it be not okay for me to do that, but for Zionists to do that? Why is one is okay for one and not okay for the other? And you can say, well, but the Holocaust. And I can go, well, but chattel slavery. Chattel slavery, it wasn't my fault that my family was taken out of West Africa, brought over to here in the United States. And then my family was subject to slavery and chattel slavery and horrible conditions in Essex County, Virginia. And then our entire history was stolen from us. Our identity was stolen from us. Our religion was stolen from us. Our language was stolen from us. So do I have the ability, do I have the right to go back to Nigeria and take the land from anybody that's on that, that's living there, and then claim it as my own and say, look, I'm right to return. It's my land. Do I have that right? Can I just kick somebody off? Or would the nicer version of it be, I moved to Nigeria, I purchased a piece of land, right? Somebody, they've had that land in their family and they want to sell a piece of it. All right, cool. All right, fine. We make a deal. And then I get some land in Nigeria and then we both live side by side. Wouldn't that be the better version? Why can it be like that? I'm not just going to take somebody. Oh, geez, Louise. I think I made my point. Let's continue. All right. Self-defense, my ass. It says, and Israel has proven willing and able to investigate and prosecute even the slightest deviations from the stringent rules of ethics, which often go further than the international obligations. Bullshit, says the ICC's accusations, including that Israel is exterminating and deliberately starving Palestinians, is unfounded and feeds into a broader anti-Israel narrative plaguing international institutions. Let me ask you something, ADL. Are 4K videos also, let me check the notes. Are 4K videos also feeding into a broader anti-Israel narrative plaguing the international institutions? Is 4K video doing that too? Because, I mean, I've been seeing the video in 4K of little children starving in Gaza, right? Is that feeding into anti-Israel narrative? Is me seeing the inside of a child's skull, is that feeding into a broader anti-Israel narrative? That was all over on Twitter? Is me seeing children dismembered, is that feeding into the anti-Israel narrative? The fact that you have people, little kids being buried from under the rubble? Anti-Defamation League, please inform me. You ever heard the phrase, if you stop telling lies about me, I'll stop telling the truth about you? This is a Kendrick and Drake situation. ADL, y'all are Drake right now. Not one of us. Anyway, let's continue. He continues. Oh my God, this guy is long with it. Says, furthermore, the ICC's prosecutors' decision to link this baseless action against Israeli leaders to the justified arrest of Hamas genocidal leaders who orchestrated a brutal and sadistic October 7th attack serves to undermine the ICC's credibility and significance. Okay. Meanwhile, y'all still complaining about the 1,200 people that were killed by Palestinian resistance. And then over 20 times that amount has been killed by Israel. 20 times. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, they're full of it. Come on. Come on. Oh, I like this. Ooh. Okay, I see you. Man, I should have used that as my thumbnail. That is nice. I like that. Anyway. And yes, they're taking L after L after L. If I'm sounding like Nick from RBN right now, it's because his spirit is upon me. But yes, L after L. Hang on. We dim boys, Zao. Free Israel from what? Free them from what? The ones who have a nuclear superpower with one of the biggest armies in the world? Free them from what? Come on now. Clip this and make it a short. Oh, geez. Okay, anyway, so let's go back to some of the other reactions. It's hilarious how they're upset. My comrade from the Orlando chapter of RBN. Look, I gotta hand it to you, Katie Lewis. This made me laugh. Katie Lewis said, "BB, if you're gonna charge me, you may as well charge George Bush, silly. George Bush." He's like, "What?" George Bush is like, "Oh no." I'm sitting here like a Kool-Aid man. Oh yeah. It's silly. It's silly. Yeah, exactly, Katie. Like George Bush is like, man, why you gotta put me in this for, man? George Bush, his booty's puckered right now because he's like, no, I thought I was gonna die and a free man. No, not today. Oh my gosh. And the thing is these are the same people that will make justifications, and they will constantly try to make justification for the crimes that they're doing, and yet when they get caught, then they're all surprised and shocked because they think that the international community should be with them, when in reality we don't stand for genocide. Let me share this, because the people and everybody wants to talk about Gaza, but we also need to talk about what's going on in the West Bank, because Israel is doing crimes against people in the West Bank too, not just Gaza. Thank you to Saul Staniforth for this. Says this morning, Palestinians in the occupied West Bank are going to school and work, and eyewitness reports that Israeli forces started shooting at them indiscriminately. A teacher, a surgeon, and 2 children were all killed. So let's go into this, because if the ICC is going to go after Israel for what's happening in Gaza, they need to go after Israel, what's going on in the West Bank as well. By the way, Hamas is not in the West Bank. Let's go.
We know that Israeli forces in large amount of vehicles have raided the Jenin area and the Jenin refugee camp at around 8 a.m. This is a time when Palestinians are trying to go to their work, to their schools. This is why, according to locals, the 7 Palestinians who were killed, at least 6 of them are civilians. The 7th is yet to be identified. 2 of them are minors under 18. One was a teacher who was going to his school, and we know now that there are talks to release some of the children or evacuate some of the children in a school inside the refugee camp because of the heavy confrontations that are going on between the Palestinian fighters and the Israeli forces. That's yet to be seen. Also, one of those who have been killed is a surgeon, a Palestinian surgeon in a hospital in Jenin who has been mourned by the Palestinian Ministry of Health, who was heading to the hospital to help aid those who have been wounded. According to Palestinians there, they say that the Israeli forces, soon as they entered the refugee camp, they started shooting towards Palestinians left, right, and center. And we've heard from the Israeli forces that they've released a statement soon as they've entered the area of Jenin and the Jenin refugee camp, which signals that we are looking at a large operation. The Israeli army says that they're operating against what they call terrorists, but as far as Palestinians tell us, that all of those who have been killed, at least 6 of them, are civilians just going about their daily lives when the Israeli raid killed them.
Also, if you notice in the background, behind her is the dedication to Shireen Abdul Akleh, who was a Palestinian journalist who was shot by IDF forces, despite her wearing press very distinctly and broadly on her vest. So that's what's going on in the West Bank that a lot of people aren't talking about, because everybody's talking about, which everybody should be talking about, Gaza, but don't forget the West Bank, because that's what's also happening. And Hamas is not in the West Bank. Okay? Now, I want to share this too, because a lot of what's going on is really being perpetuated and funded by the United States. People like Anthony Blinken are reprehensible human beings, horrible human beings, because they're making excuses and they're defending the atrocities and genocide that's happening. And I just want to share, this is who Anthony Blinken is. Anthony Blinken is the Secretary of State, and this is what happened when he was given in front of Congress and giving testimony.
Pursuing
Raqqa was 6 years old. An Israeli killer. His Raqqa was 6 years old. Lincoln, you will be remembered as the butcher of Gaza. You will be remembered for murdering innocent Palestinians.
So Hind was a little 6-year-old girl that was on the phone. Her family was killed. She was trapped in a car. And when they tried to save her, they killed the first responders that were trying to save her, as well as her. Her family was murdered, and then she died subsequently. And this is why Hamilton Hall in Columbia University was changed to the name Hind Hall, because she was martyred by the IDF, and she was only a 6-year-old little girl. So that's what this gentleman who was raising his voice basically was, protesting Anthony Blinken about. Butcher Blinken, which I think is an apt name for him, is somebody that should really see the inside of a jail cell because of the crimes that he has perpetuated through his support of the Israeli regime, really the Netanyahu regime. And I think that it would be apropos for him to face criminal charges. There's something else that I want to share as well in regards to Anthony Blinken, because this was shared recently too. Here it is. And this shows the depravity of someone like an Anthony Blinken. And this is why we talk about changing the system from the ground up, because people like Anthony Blinken really should be regarded in the annals of history as horrible as a Colin Powell. So this was out of breaking points, and I actually appreciate them for sharing this too. So here we go.
And so when the topic of statehood got brought up, we had asked for both a free and independent Palestine, a statehood, and a seat at the UN Security Council table. And the response was disappointing because it made the comparison to, well, first and foremost, that a vote for a Palestinian statehood from the US would lead to the defunding of the UN from the US being its primary funder. But then the example brought up was that it would be within the right of the UN to then cut programs like the World Food Program. And so the fact that the comparison was made that the world would have to go hungry just like the Gazans are, and the fact that it's US policy to starve the world if Palestinians have a free state, regardless of if that's the law or not, is indicative of something severely wrong.
Yeah, Bill, oh, go ahead.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
so Anthony Blinken said, we have to oppose Palestinian statehood or else the World Food Program budget will be cut and people will starve around the world. Like, that's the Secretary of State's assessment that he's making to you guys in this meeting?
The example was given that if the UN had to cut its funding, it would have to cut programs like the World Food Program. And that was the example shared, followed by the explanation that then the world would have to starve as the Gazans are. And so
I want you guys to let that sit with you for a second. That if they allowed the Palestinians to have a state, then the United States would essentially defund the United Nations so that the world will starve. In other words, that is a hostage situation that they are willing to destroy the entire world just so that the Palestinians will remain oppressed. That's who Anthony Blinken is. That's some mafia type stuff. It would be a shame if Palestinians got a state and then it would be a shame if the Palestinians got a state and then we somehow couldn't afford to feed the rest of the world. That's what it sounds like. Doesn't it sound like that to you? That's a hostage situation, man. Holding the world hostage?
As the Gazans are. And so that is not the comparison you make to make an argument for why Palestinians should not have a free state.
You don't want to give them freedom simply because why? You'll starve the whole world if they get their freedom? Anthony Blinken's a bastard, man. Look, I know I was kidding when I made. Was I really kidding? Nah, not really, but making this comparison, I mean, I honestly do feel like this guy's probably better than Anthony Blinken. If any of you guys have ever seen Rogue One, a Star Wars story, I'm telling my kids that this is Anthony Blinken. That's Anthony Blinken. Because I'm going to be real with you. The way he comes across, it's just a horrible, horrible person. And so, yes, I'm only doing one segment today because that was a lot to go through, and I don't want to have to, make this into a super long stream. But ultimately, I think that Anthony Blinken, Netanyahu, Yoav Gallant, these guys, Joe Biden, and of course, soon to be president again, Donald Trump, unfortunately. I mean, I'm not going to say that because it's about to be a 4-person race this November. But the way things are going, it could be Donald Trump. But either way, whatever. But my thing is like, you can't get blood out of a stone. And with that being said, you cannot try to get justice from unjust people. You can't try to get liberation out of oppressive people. People like Yoav Gallant, Bibi Netanyahu, Joe Biden, Anthony Blinken. You can't get justice from them because they're just unjust people with unjust hearts. You can't do that. And it's crazy because there's a lot going on right now where even France is saying, yeah, we agree with the ICC. And when you have other Western governments saying, yeah, they agree with ICC, you messed up. Says the latest, France, Belgium, Slovenia support bid for arrest warrants for Israel and Hamas leaders. Uh-oh. Even the West largely is going, yeah. We don't support, them all the way like that. Wow. Let's get into it. It says France, Belgium, and Slovenia released statements supporting the world's top crimes court and its chief prosecutor's request for arrest warrants for leaders of Israel and Hamas after Israel and the United States both harshly condemned the effort. The International Criminal Court's chief prosecutor, Karim Khan, accused Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, Defense Minister Yoav Gallant, and 3 Hamas leaders, Yahya Sinwar, Mohammed Diaf, and Ismail Haniyeh, of war crimes and crimes against humanity in the Gaza Strip in Israel. While Netanyahu and Gallant do not face imminent arrest, the announcement Monday was a symbolic blow that deepened Israel's isolation over the war in Gaza. Israeli forces raided militant stronghold Tuesday in the occupied West Bank, killing at least 7 and wounding several, according to Palestinian Health Ministry. The raid into Jenin is part of months of surging violence into Palestinian territory. Israel launched its offensive after Hamas' October 7th attack, in which militants stormed the southern Israel, killed about 1,200 people, mostly civilians, and abducted about 250. Now, just to let you guys know, because a lot of times the AP will also have more of a pro-Israel slant. Some of those people who were killed on October 7th that were Israeli were killed by friendly fire. That's also been confirmed. by friendly fire from Israel. So therefore, Israel ended up killing some of its own civilians. So it's, yeah. Let's continue. At least 35,000 Palestinians have died in the war. See, here's the thing. It's not a war, because a war would denote two equal opposing sides. There's not. You have a paramilitary of people who do not have tanks. They do not have gunships. They do not have aircrafts like jets. They do not have those things. Whatever they do have, they had to recycle from what Israel had. Israel is a nuclear power that has all that. They have tanks. They have gunships. They have all types of terrain vehicles. They have ships. They have aircraft carriers. They have all of that. So therefore, it is an unequal force. So when people call it a war, that's why I always push back. It's not a war. Gaza does not have a military. All right. Says, according to Gaza's health ministry, which does not distinguish between combatants and civilians, around 80% of the population of 2.3 million Palestinians have been displaced within the territory, often multiple times. So even the Western governments are now starting to go, I don't know, dog. So at this point right now, it's more symbolic that it's like, okay, yeah, the ICC's like, yeah, we want to arrest them. But truth be told, do I see anything happening? No, not via the ICC. What I would like to see, though, is the people going in and taking their government official, particularly by people, I'm talking about the Israelis, take their government officials by force, and then, you know, legally charging them, and then submitting them over, turning them over to the ICC and putting them in The Hague. I would like to see that. Then the Israelis somehow, you know, gain a conscience and go, wait a minute, we shouldn't be here because, you know, or not that we shouldn't be here, but we should work to have a single state with the Palestinians, and they need to have equal rights just like us, and we should live peacefully among them. I mean, isn't that what the Palestinians actually really want? You see, here's the thing a lot of people forget. The Palestinians actually do not dislike Jewish people. There are Palestinian Jews. The Palestinians just do not want their land and homes stolen or taken or stripped away from them. That's what they don't want. And the reason why they're resisting is because you have a particular people that's doing that. If the Zionists were black, the Palestinians would still be resisting. If the Zionists were Christian, the Palestinians would still be resisting. If the occupiers were Asian, the Palestinians would still be resisting. If they were all women, the Palestinians would still be resisting. If they were all gay, the Palestinians would still be resisting. It has nothing to do with religion. It has nothing to do with the fact that they're Jewish. It has everything to do with the fact that their homes and land was stolen by them. And now they're using their identity as a cudgel to justify their atrocities. The Israelis are using their identity to justify their atrocity and saying that anybody who goes against them committing this atrocity is anti-Semitic, even though Palestinians are Semites too. So the problem isn't because of who they are. The problem is the actions that they take. Look, if let's say hypothetically a woman tries to stub me on my toe, and I didn't do anything to her, but she tries to stub me on my toe, and if I push her away from me from stubbing me on my toe, is that misogynist of me to push her away to prevent me from being harmed? No, because I would have did it if she was a man. I would have did it if she was trans. I would have did it if she was a cisgender woman. I would have did it if she was a robot. I would have did it anyway, right? So same thing with Palestinians and their resistance. It has no bearing on what identity you have. It's the fact that what you're doing. That's the thing, right? So, yeah. This is why it means the most. That's why I'm saying, I hope Israelis start to realize that that's the whole reason why. Like the occupations that are happening are illegal and taking people's homes. People still literally have the keys to their parents' and grandparents' houses. Some people still have the keys to their own houses that were stolen away from them that they wish to go back to. They have, farms with olive trees that are taken away from them. They just want to live in peace on the land that they've been living on for generations. I'm going to share with you guys this too, because I'm going to share you what Israelis do not want. Well, at least Zionists, I'll say it that way. This is what Zionists don't want to happen, but it's going to happen. And when it happens, it's going to be poetic. I'll put it that way. So there's a lot of overlap between what happened in South Africa during apartheid and what's going on right now in occupied Palestine, because there's apartheid, Israeli apartheid that's going on, especially in the West Bank, where you have, unequal, there's no equal rights for Palestinians versus Israeli. So it's really bad. So I want to share this because I saw this and I was just like, oh my gosh, this is going to happen. This is going to happen in Palestine in the future, because Palestine will be free. And when it happens, this is what's going to happen. I can just see this. So it says May 2015, white South Africans asked to right to return to Europe. Oh, let's take a look.
A number of white South Africans are petitioning online for a return to Europe. The reason? They say they feel unwelcome in their country. The online plea on change.org demands the EU grant the white population of South Africa automatic European citizenship. Rodrigo Haras de Campos, who comes from Brazil, launched the campaign in early June. He said that South African whites face unfavorable policies and individual anti-white aggressors. South Africa held its first elections for all races in 1994, ending apartheid and racist white regimes.
1994. That is not, look, I was 10 years old. 10 in 94. Not that long ago. I ain't that old. I know I look good for my age, but I ain't that old. Let's continue.
Today, among the country's population of 53 million, 5 million are white. Most of their ancestors came from England and the
Only 10% of the population. Come on, let's go.
Netherlands. The petition says it's, quote, morally obligatory that Europe should allow all white South Africans the right to return.
Oh, wait. Right to return to Europe. Isn't this interesting? Oh my God. Look, man, I wish I had me some liquor. Oh my goodness. White South Africans now want the right to return to Europe? Oh. Say it ain't so, y'all. What? Oh, right to return? Yes, Christopher. Right to return. Look, I'm just saying. Woo, let's go. Let's continue. Some of y'all probably laughing at this right now. Let's continue.
They're basing their petition on the Israeli policy on the right of all Jews to return to Israel.
Oh, gosh.
Over 36,000 signatures have been collected so far. However, the petition isn't echoing well in Europe. A newspaper in the United Kingdom said Europe would be overrun with entitled white South Africans.
Wait. Entitled white South Africans. Entitled white South y'all. The jokes write themselves. The jokes write themselves. Oh my goodness. Look, thank the universe for this little nugget. Thank the universe. Irony. Oh, how ironic.
It also said the influx of South Africans would endanger Europe's already sluggish economy. A number of white South Africans are
So basically, they don't want those illegal whites from South Africa to come and tear down their economy. Katie Lewis, if you're watching right now, you need to make your way over here with a bottle of some liquor right now so I can take a couple shots over this one. Like, Oh, Lord. That's funny. But that's honestly, I'm like, look, that's the fear of some of these Israelis as well, because then Europe's gonna be like, no, you can't come meet, you can't come back, no, and no, you can't come back. Imagine Israelis trying to return to Europe and then they get blocked. Right? Imagine Israelis that have came from the United States that try to come back. And then you get some white Southerners going, we don't want them Israelis come back here. They're going to ruin our economy. I'm sorry. It's just, you got to laugh to keep yourself from crying, right? And that's one of the reasons why I want the show, because I think it's just funny. It's funny. The fact that, like, years, decades after apartheid, and now you have white South Africans that want to return to Europe because they don't feel welcome. Meanwhile, y'all spent all that time committing apartheid and committing a two-tier system, and now you guys are like, oh my God, we don't feel welcome. Maybe, just maybe, you shouldn't have did apartheid in the first place. Maybe you shouldn't have participated in apartheid in the first place. And I'm going to say this also to Israelis. Maybe, just maybe, you shouldn't have participated in illegal occupation and theft of land and homes. Maybe, just maybe, when Palestine is free, not if, when Palestine is free, then you won't end up feeling the same way. Trying to run and scurry back to Europe or the United States. Because you participated in the theft of homes and the displacement of Palestinian people. Things are going to get reset. Mark my words. We are going to have a reset in humanity. And that reset is us going back to our indigenous roots. Mark my words. Societally, we're going to do it. Because we have to. Because it means our very survival. We're not going to have this little small nuclear family anymore. No. We're going to have tribes again. Not tribes as in people want bigger groups against one another. No, we're going to cause this to be more of a familial unit across this country. That's what we're going to do. Because it makes no sense for us to be as divided as we are. Because we're all human beings with all the same needs. And the thing is that that's one of the things that we absolutely need to have. And because that we will have this familial feeling amongst one another, we're also going to have that familiar feeling for everybody across this world, which means that we're going to see the displacement, especially by militarism and colonialism, as a crime against humanity that should never even come into our minds again. And we're going to say, absolutely not in our names, and we're going to prevent it. Watch, mark my words, humanity is going to revert back to the way it was. And we're not going to see colonialism and imperialism as a way for us to survive. We're going to see the entire earth as one human whole family. And once we see that, then we'll see ourselves in each other. That's something that we're going to see. And we're not going to start using the ideas of taking and conquering for our own survival. No, we will be appealing to one another and seeing each other's humanity and say, look, we're a little lack in this. Hundreds of years from now, the area formerly known as France will say, hey, we need some power. Burkina Faso, that area, can you guys give us a little bit of uranium? We have some stuff here that we can trade with you if you guys can help us out. Okay, fine. We'll trade with you guys in an equal and fair way. Okay, you guys got that. And then France, the area formerly known as France, will have what it needs, and the area formerly known as Burkina Faso will have what it needs. And then we all help each other in a mutual way. But that's honestly what I see for humanity. I'm probably not going to live to see it truly fulfilled. But I'm trying to lay down the foundations as much as I can right now and using my big mouth to do it. But let me go to the chat. I've been rambling on for long enough. But before I do that, I just want to say I want to give a big thank you and a shout out to all the patrons on Patreon. Just to let you guys know, if you guys would like to, I am demonetized. So if you'd like to support the channel, you can support via Patreon or PayPal. Thank you so very much. And also, I also have coffee as well. If you guys would like to buy me a coffee, let's give a shout out to the patrons. Oh wait, here we go. There we go. All right, thank you so much to the patrons on Patreon. We have Mega Jaybefaunters, Super Duper Jaybefaunters, Super Jaybefaunters, Jaybefaunters, Comrades, Solidarity, and JB members. And I would like to give a shout out to new member Flerndip. Flerndip, thank you so very much for becoming a new patron on Patreon. So thank you to all of you. Now, let's go into the chats. Rockfin, we're good. Let me check the Rumble chat just to make sure everything is everything. Everything is everything. All right, we have people trying to push Bitcoin on here, which I will not show. Absolutely not. Get off my page. And now let's go to the rest of the chat here. Yo, this was crazy. And now you got everybody saying, getting mad, talking about, I can't believe they actually did this. The ICC. And some people are kind of happy. They're just like, well, hey, at least they're going after Netanyahu. Jesco says the U.S. is not a signatory to the ICC. They'd rather invade it. I wouldn't put it past them. Jacqueline says, I can't talk to whether FDR committed any war crimes during World War II. The Japanese internment camps, I would say, is a war crime. He says, but I'm pretty sure Churchill committed them during World War II, even if he was never prosecuted for them. Yeah. Let me see. Roger Meadows says the Hamas leaders he's talking about are the ones in Qatar. Yeah. Jesco says sexual violence during captivity equals not during the October 7th attack, but later. Let's see. Oh, man. I'm sorry, Katie Grigors. Says, sad today, got into a yelling match with a friend of 35 years who's a Christian Zionist preaching to me that I can't question God's way when it comes to Israel and Palestine, and that it's Palestine's fault that they brought this genocide on themselves and it's God's plan. I think I lost a good friend. We've been through a lot together. Few months ago, I had a couple friends that ended their friendship with me because I dare oppose genocide. And the thing is, it's like, you know, how did they bring it upon themselves when Zionists invaded the area and stole the homes of Palestinians back in 1948? You know, Zionists, man, I tell you, I'm sorry. And yes, Jesco says technically civilians, but the legal system classifying them as technically as civilians is a neo-colonial one. Yeah. Wadi says, hey, everybody, good to see you. All right. And we have Retro Gamer coming in. All right. We have a few people. And good to see you, whatever, man. Let's see. Trying to get to some people I haven't got to say hello to. And then we have Bryce coming in. All right. Good to see you in here as well. And then Cobra Commander says, what a setup. Yep. That's actually a good question. How in the world does this help Palestinians? Because, I mean, Israel, and more specifically Netanyahu, is going to remain defiant. He doesn't really care, you know. What he says, I saw some people chastising entities like Mint Press News for criticizing Amal's lack of an opinion on Gaza until now due to her involvement with the ICC. However, that doesn't get her off the hook. Yeah, I mean, I understand that she was working in the background, but at the same time, it's like, ma'am, you have Palestinian family. Like, you have to have an opinion on what's going on. And I know that you have to have communication with your family in Palestine and getting, you know, what's going on with them. Hell, you're Palestinian and Lebanese. So with that being said, what Israel is doing to both sides of your family, it's like, you know, you probably, you know, do you have any, you know, inside knowledge, you know, to actually go against the leaders of Palestinian resistance, or are you just trying to ride the fence, you know, as it were? You see, VS Adams coming in here with laughs. All right, good to see you. All right. All right, so whatever man says, is a CNN International, the CNN that nobody sees? Yeah. Because they'll show stuff on CNN International that they won't show on CNN in the United States. Or you have to have, if you have to have CNN International on cable, you know, if you don't have it there, then you won't see it. Noah Krichovic, thank you so very much. Let me see. Who else? Let me see. Who did I? Oh, CBC voters in here. Good to see you too. Myra Page, nice to have you. Bender says nobody stands with Israel. No way. No. Whoever that is on Twitch, Sodden Lampics, yeah, please do not advertise on my streams. Like, I do not like when people advertise on my streams like that. And if I could, I will actually like delete it. And I'm not going to show it on my screen, by the way. So anyway, but yeah, that whole like Europeans wanting a right to return, I was just like, are you kidding me? Laura says, so does that mean the new residents living in the house they abandoned will need to leave? Lazy flower eater. I know, right? that was funny. It's like Bender said their queen said for them to eat cake.
Let him eat cake.
Lou says, what economy? The only country in Europe with a functional economy is Russia, which incidentally offers land to immigrants who are willing to be farmers. Oh, they do? That's interesting. That is funny. Oh my gosh. You know what's interesting? I think is it in Kenya? It might be in Nigeria too. But those of us who have ancestry, like if you can do a DNA test and prove that you have ancestry in place, I think it's Kenya. It might be Kenya. I don't know if it might be Ghana too. But if you can prove that you have ancestry, you can actually get citizenship. You can have a dual citizenship in those African countries. Like it's like basically like welcoming you home. So that's kind of interesting. I would like to see about getting like dual citizenship in Nigeria. You know, I think that'd be pretty cool. Noah Krejcivik says FDR's real crimes happened after World War II when he uses the U.S. government to force market dependence on U.S. exports, forces U.S. dominance of the IMF, World Bank, and a whole lot of other inhuman stuff. Yeah. Unfortunately, that's how the United States. Yeah. This is very sweet, Zoe. You're about to give me diabetes. Says, you reporting in all of RBN makes me feel sane and truly maddening world. Thank you. Thank you. You sweeter than a Mrs. Fields cookie. The Mrs. Fields cookies are very sweet. Kurt coming in saying, I hate thinking about the last 20 years of ghouls creating crisis after crisis. Yeah. We got Extra Booyah in the chat. Good to see Uncle Warren. We got Robbie Burns coming in saying, sup, James. We have Mouse coming in saying, what's up, Wardy? Good to see everybody in here. We have Dwayne coming in saying, howdy, y'all. Good to see you, Dwayne. Let me see. Oh, wait. Did I say hello to you, Killian Grigors? Hello. Good to see you. All right. Desert Mantis says, am I 2 hours late or was JB 2 hours early? No. In fact, I go live at 2 p.m. every single Tuesday. I've done it for almost 2 years. Unfortunately, some people moved on time, even though they know that I'm at this time. And so they decided to switch their time to go at 2 p.m. instead, so that now we're competing for that time, even though I don't like to compete because I don't think it's productive. And I try not to go live when they're live. Anyways. Let's continue. All right. So I'm going to head out because we are over 2 hours and I do not want to stay on for too long. I thought I had I was thinking about doing a bit of a Q&A, but because I'm this long out, I don't think I am. I mean, if you guys want me to do a Q&A, just let me know in the comments. I was thinking about stopping because I only have one story to cover with you guys today. Because I didn't want to do more than one story, because then I know that I wouldn't be able to be as detailed for this. And that clip from the ICC was a little bit long, and I wanted to show more details. But if you guys want me to, then I can. I was thinking about it. But, of course, that means you will have to hear more of my voice. And I don't know if y'all want to do that. I know I had... Oh. Yeah. I can end with this. This is funny. It's a it's a message to everybody that's protesting. In fact, let me share that too. While I have you guys here, so I think that's important. Because right now, over the weekend, there was a lot of people that were protesting graduation. So this is what happened at Yale. So Yale students who are graduating from Yale, they actually protested against the genocide for their graduation. So let's go. This is more lighthearted. Let's go. So yeah, that happened over the weekend. So it says Yale students walk out of graduation waving Palestinian flags and chanting, "Disclose, divest, we will not stop, we will not rest." So that's what happened. It was, a beautiful thing that I saw. I would like to see more of it. Dwayne says Q&A. Let me see. Anybody else for Q&A? But yeah, so one of the things that I would say is to anybody who is thinking about doing any protesting, there's some lawyers that actually gave some advice that I would like to share with you guys. I don't have to worry because I'm not monetized anymore, but I still try to be as careful as I possibly can. But I think this is relevant, okay? But I think you guys should really take their lawyerly advice to heart. So let's go.
Oh, hello.
We were just talking about you kids.
I'm Denise Heberly.
And I'm Bill Goodman.
Together, we've been fighting fascism for over 50 years.
And so much has changed over those 50 years, such as the ingredients to a successful firebomb.
And the glass that bank windows are made of.
But there's one thing that hasn't changed over 50 years, something that is so important to tell you kids who are new to this movement.
Shut the fuck up. You're sitting in the police transport van after a protest?
Shut the fuck up. In a holding cell with your comrades?
Shut the fuck up. Cop knocks on your door?
Shut the fuck up.
Texting on an unsecured device?
Shut the fuck up. Pulled over by the cops after a protest?
Shut the fuck up. Cop just asking about your day?
Shut the fuck up. Feds, call your mom?
Tell your mother to shut the fuck up.
Now, repeat after me. When the cops come calling, what do you do?
Shut the fuck up!
Just a little lawyer advice, to those of you who may, be protesting, So just to let you guys know. I thought that was important. Anyway, if any of you guys want me to do a Q&A, I'll do it. But I think I'm going to head out because I'm already 2 hours in. But I think it's good to see you guys. Yes, Eric says Sabi will be live tonight at 7. Oh, yeah. Bio. Oh, thank you for reminding me, Eric. My homie, my sister girl, done hit 100,000 subs over the weekend. We gotta clap it up for my sister. Hey, yes, I am so excited. Congratulations to Savvy Savs on 100,000 subs. Woo! What a time! What a time to be alive! I am so excited. And oh, by the way, was it yesterday? Yeah, yesterday she was on Tavis Smiley's radio show. So look, go to his website and go ahead and give it a listen. So I'm gonna try to do that after my stream because I had dialysis yesterday and so I was knocked out. But I'm gonna try to give it a listen after this. But yeah, it's great. She's doing big things. I'm very excited for her. So thank you so very much. Let me see. All right. Yeah, Ghost Nest says, too bad 100,000 subs doesn't come with health insurance. Yeah. Oh my goodness. Whatever man says, JB, we gotta talk. Talk about what? What did I do? I haven't done anything wrong. Have I? Oh my goodness. All right. So I'm gonna head on out. Gotta do my thing. I'm making chicken tonight. Gotta get this stuff cooking. But I'll be doing the readings of the books that I typically do on my channel. So we continue the reading of The Will to Change by Bell Hooks. We'll continue in that reading. I'll be continuing this week in the reading of Presidential by Margaret Kimberly. Oh, Margaret Kimberly. Speaking of which, she actually gave a speech at the United Nations Security Council. That was awesome too. Do I want to share that? Yes, I do. Because that was awesome. Oh, I don't think I have it. I thought I saved it. Yeah, she spoke at the UN Security Council about what the West is essentially doing and speaking about the crimes that the West is committing, which I think is amazing. So shout out to Margaret Kimberly for speaking at the UN Security Council. Awesome, awesome, awesome. And then I will also be getting into reading some more of The Water in the Spirit by Melodoma Puchisome. So I'll be getting into that later this week. And be sure to tune in this Thursday for the Savvy and JB show. We'll have a new story for you there. And I want to give a congratulations to one of my nephews. He's graduating from the 5th grade this week. So if in case I don't get to do another stream, I just want to say congratulations to you, Christian. I love you. And you're making me proud. And I cannot wait to see you become a marine biologist that will help us in this world to know our planet even better. So I think that you are going to be doing great things in the future. And you got your uncle behind you. Love you. So with that being said, do I have anything else? I think I'm done. Man, time flies when you're having fun. Funny how time flies when you're having fun. Funny how time flies when you're forehead kisses to every single one of you. Wash your plants, water yourselves, leave the world better than you found it. Smoke them if you got them, drink them if you got them. If you ain't got them, then watch something funny because joy is revolutionary. I love you all for watching, and I'm gonna give you a second forehead kiss. Why? Because that's just who the guy I am. And please make sure wash your ass. Just kidding. Take care. No, for real, wash it. Thank you so very much for watching my channel, and I deeply appreciate it from the top and bottom of my heart. If you wish to support the channel further, so I can keep bringing you content that is educational and informative, you can become a patron on patreon.com/Jaybefaunt. You can find that link in the pinned comment or in the description below. No matter what you give, you'll be supporting independent media and education that helps make the world better. Thank you so much, and you can watch more of my content here. Mwah. Forehead kisses, and have a beautiful day.